So, hello everyone, and welcome to another series of Seafood Explained. I'm still running, and I'm still curious about the salmon markets and production. And once again, Lars Daniel, you're here.
Yeah.
And what you gonna explain to me today?
We've just had the lunch where we've eaten smoked salmon.
Yes.
And
Good as well.
I think you thought it was a good idea to talk about salmon markets. So we think that's one of our key passions, where we dig down into all the details. So we have, say, data for all markets and going down. But we won't take all of them today, but focus on key trends and dynamics, and also a glance into next year and going forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So first sum up 2023 maybe, and then look into 24.
Yeah.
And see what the drivers are, and if you can expect a Merry Christmas and a happy start of the new year.
I think it'll be a happy Christmas anyway, but we'll
depends which family you have.
Yeah.
No, okay. So, but you wanted to show me something first, and you wanted to share something from our platform Edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we this is say my daily job, and we've had previous webinars before where we gone through the outlooks and production and a bit, say, the drivers and dynamics on production side earlier. And most of this is, say, summed up in, say, different views on the platform we had. So part of my job is to analyze and so the forecast here, which goes forward both 2 years and 3 years and going forward in time. But its base is also a nice starting, always a nice starting point before we look at salmon markets and dynamics, because what is being produced is also what's being consumed. And here at the current point in time, the biomass is marginally up, so around 3.5% by the end of October. Smolt stocking is trending upwards. Feed sales in October disappointed on the downside quite a bit, and we've also adjusted down our expectations for November. And this has been done throughout the year, where both also production as a whole has ended on a similar level as 2023, but the harvest rate is I wanted to show and highlight, I think, because the assumptions that we put into the model is, of course, also what you should.
And what we see here is a comparison between your thoughts in 22 December and December now.
Yeah. So they've ended on a lower level due to various both winter ulcers and poor growth during the year, but also more fish stocked into the sea, harvested earlier at low rates due to sea lice and many different reasons for it. But what we see and how we model in the graphs we'll show later on here is, of course, taken as a starting point to where do we view also the market potential. Trying to split them a bit on. You'll find data. We'll show some more graphs there on. But it's also very good to understand the dynamics, and it's been a central part both from last year and this year, is that we have not been able to produce enough
as we hoped,
and we've actually on a global level been producing less than last year. So total consumption here or production in 2023 ends approximately down 1%, close to 1.5 million tons.
Yeah.
For Norway, which is the biggest producer, and then you have Chile and other European producers. So
same story there.
Similar story also in other European markets, which has impacted this, which is say we have a weekly summary that we publish here every year.
It does go.
Yeah. So it's a summary of why do we do changes, and explain a bit every week what have we done, but also have a section here which is important which goes on the market aspects and dynamics and trades on a weekly level.
Yeah, because you're trying here to set a market value more or less on the European market.
Yeah, so this graph shows the market value of exports from Norway measured in euro. So not Norwegian kroner, but euro. And then it's a split. So this is, say, last week, where did it go to? And one of the central or interesting things to follow on at a weekly level is, of course, where is the supply pressure, and where's the drive, where we hear and seen throughout the year that Asia and particularly China has come back.
So China is a driver in Asia now.
Yeah, big driver. It's been throughout all the year, and particularly for large size, so 6+ salmon, demanding more and been a key driver behind what has been, say, good price achievement also during 2023, and still is.
Still is, yeah.
And compared to other central splits and how you could view the industry is EU central processing hub.
When you're talking Poland,
Denmark, using smoked salmons, fresh fillets, for example, that goes into retail, compared to fresh whole supply to Italy or Spain or France, for example, that also has a bit different market dynamics on where is the supply pressure, high or low, which is important to look at in understanding the central dynamics. And this is, of course, you could split it up into different parts, where also the quality superior share has been, say, impacted this year. So there's not been sufficient supply to everybody, and it's been a central part of the pricing dynamics.
Yeah, because for Norwegians, they're using very high prices.
Yeah. And we'll go a bit further into this, and then it's, of course, the supply from Norway. Say is the next. Where does it go? So it's the same picture, but we more data on a monthly basis, where you can see here and say the big difference in supply to Poland, for example, during a year.
We start here,
where it's a normal seasonal profile, but it's not any big supply increase in terms of volume.
Okay.
So the price pressure this year has not been up significantly, but it's limited by the production. So
the supply is limited, more or less.
Another way to look at it, and the next view that we have, where we go a bit further out. So we stand in the market. So we're now looking only at the EU, so where we include all producing regions and supply to a region. And the forecast here also represents the expected supply share to the rest, to EU, and UK areas included, where there has been, say, increasing demand both from Asia and US, for example, have taken slightly higher share. So there has been less pressure on the core EU market.
Yeah, but you see over the last rolling 12 months, it's down 4.5%. So
so it's quite a lot.
Quite a lot. So
and this is, of course, what has impacted
the situation in Norway, more or less.
Situation, 80% of it is Norwegian farmed salmon, which plays an important role. And forecasting, of course, here the market supply tons is different compared to, say, what is the core. We have some graphs later on trying to explain what is the difference between supply to market, which this represents, compared to what is the demand, where you try to understand why does it happen, where do you see growth in the market. Channel, for example, we'll show that later on. You can same here for
the US, probably.
For the US.
But still here we had a growth. It's a plus on the plus side.
Yeah, so we see that across many different regions where you see it's a global salmon market where you see more growth from overseas, what we here in Europe call overseas markets, so Asia, US, and the Middle East, for example, that has been and shown significant growth over the past 5 years.
What do we see then? You have the increase in the US, the increase in Asia, and the decline in Europe. Is that in Europe, are they bored of salmon, or is it the prices and what's happened with the Americans? They can't have enough, or?
No, it's more the sum on a global level where there isn't enough for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
so Europe lost more or less.
What's being produced is also what's being sold. And we'll move over to the presentation.
Yeah, there we go.
Where we go a bit further deeper into and try to explain what is really going on and explaining the demand side of salmon. It's a bit more deeper dive.
Yeah, because you have a side hustle as well, where you actually go deeper down into the figures than we see in Edge. So
yeah, so we quite enjoy that, and it's very very interesting. And we also publish on the portal and Edge insight articles and include stuff like this. For example, we did a section here earlier on the productivity in Europe as a whole and what can we expect going into 2024 also, which is a very relevant section to read, and I would recommend to everybody.
What are you showing me here then? So this is consumption by major consumer markets and sales channels. So what I see here is that retail is slowing down and food service or EPA is bouncing back. Why is that?
Yeah, it's more to try to illustrate in a more simpler term to explain to you what the period last 2 years that we've been in, what does it represent and where are we? So it's a post-COVID-19 where supply by sales channel has significantly shifted backwards, where you have comeback in what is and always has been the high value segments in terms of salmon demand.
Yeah.
So that is very, very positive, and this explains the big value increase that you both saw, particularly last year, but now also where you see it from Asia more, or China this year.
So Asia, China is the driver.
China is a bigger driver this year than it was in 2022, but it's a central part here also. So China is included in terms of where is the growth in China. It's more the food service segment compared, so it's roughly 80-20, whereas in say Europe it's 60-40, and coming back more to 75-25.
Yeah. Okay.
And 2023, of course, also has been by high inflation, so for food prices in general, but also increasing rates and what is the disposable income, which really the second graph and summary, where does 2023 end?
Yeah, where does it end?
It ends with a record high, which I will start on the positive note.
Yeah, let's do that.
A record high market value in terms of Norwegian export measures in
Norwegian kroners. Yeah.
So here we have forecasted also in November and December, so we have forecasts going further beyond this, but mainly FX gain driven.
A weak Norwegian kroner.
A really weak Norwegian kroner. Where if you adjust this, so this bottom graph here represents really is indexed from 2012, where production or supply in tons round weight is indexed. This is the lowest one, and then you have the export value. So you see the big difference.
I see that in Norwegian kroners it's full hooray, right?
Yeah.
And then we look at euros, it's still okay-ish, I guess.
So this is the best indicator for demand. Say using demand instead of tons, as a proxy for illustrating the demand.
But then again, we can look at when you have adjusted for inflation.
When you adjusted for currency, you get a more representative what is the say real underlying demand in the market currency. So you still see a big increase there from 2019 going through pandemic and then a big recovery of the high value savings driving say the growth there. But 2023 really ends on a slightly positive note, but not when you adjust for inflation.
No.
So it really means that we haven't been able to beat inflation this year. So it's a marginal decline.
Marginal.
But still very positive if you say include all relevant terms of adjusted for your FX gains, which really is the only big positive in terms of the total value in terms of Norwegian kroner.
So basically what you're telling me here, we was here some months ago talking about who's going to pick up the bill after the taxation in Norway, and it's not the markets.
No, not so far, but they say the new tax regime also has implications on the market dynamics, where the new norm price concepts, which really nobody knows how it will end up.
No, you do.
It's a strange suggestion, but where it really impacted the contract market.
Yeah.
The contract
How so?
fell. Because you don't know what price you will be taxed on, and then it's difficult to say 1 year ahead I will agree to this price, but I don't know what
you don't dare to.
It's difficult to me to take that position without knowing if I'll be taxed on it or not. And that led to the contract market falling, which really, if you have a big supply increase, you will have a relatively higher share available in spot. What has happened is that volume supplied or available for retail, if you will, has been very limited due to stagnation in productivity. And this has left the market in a vortex where there is still growing demand for increasing turnover in volume terms, but there isn't enough for all.
No.
And even with the falling contract market,
I guess retail is the big ones in the contract market.
Yeah. It would have been a very, very different situation if you have a big, large volume increase, falling contract market, but a situation that didn't take place.
No.
And this is also relative, say, where are we now going into 2024, and some more comments here that are relevant in understanding what are, say, potential outcomes going into 24.
And still some uncertainties. You mentioned the taxation and the model price or whatever. So, but are there other uncertainties you want to highlight? Or?
Yeah, and definitely I have it here on split here, trying to dig a bit more deeper into these
next slide.
Next slide. Into the different segments. So food service here, or large-sized salmon, which is more representative.
When is it large? Is it
5 plus, 6 plus, which really is the if you think of sushi, sashimi trend global, which you see cross in every corner of the world. Japanese cuisine is becoming more and more popular. To see that
that's describing that's the number of Japanese cuisine restaurants globally, right?
Yeah, it's an indication that the Japanese sushi sashimi trend is continuing. It had it was impacted by COVID, but it's still expected to continue to increase.
Yeah, okay.
And but where you see that the interesting contrast is the industry's availability to supply this category.
Yeah, and that's described, right?
Yeah, which show the change in supply. For Norway here, it's adjusted to +5.
Yeah.
But it's for say China, for example, it's only 6+.
Okay.
Where you see the bottom graph here, the increase to China to have some more details on that is so far this year, including Q3, global supply volume is up more than 40% in tons. In value, it's even more.
How much? Roughly?
Close above 50.
Above 50. Okay.
So, but it's really, really impressive, and it's universal. You see it in all markets from US to Asia to Europe to Middle East to all other.
Yeah, but why is the late kind of bounce back from China and Hong Kong? Is it because of the postponed reopening after COVID? And
yeah, they were
it's now seeing the effects. Yeah.
Closed down last year, and then it's more comeback. So they were lagging 1 year behind.
Yeah,
so that's why you see this comeback from China this year.
Yeah,
and it's despite freight cost being up 15% as well. So there are other elements here also underlying the strong demand and willingness to pay high premium share also for this segment. But where the biggest contrast is the current industry's availability to supply it, and particularly the bigger difference between first half and second half.
Yeah, because first half of the year, no fish and no big fish.
Yeah,
and second half, lots of big fish and a bit more fish.
Yeah. So it's not only availability, but it's also timing.
Yeah, so the seasonality plays a big role there.
Yeah. So this represents say a big market opportunity, and the growth in this part of the segment will continue to be strong.
Yeah, that was our conclusion last time as well. So if I have fish, I should harvest it in the Q1, Q2, and it should be 6+, and I should send it to China now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's my plan now. Okay.
or other markets that are also willing to pay. So you see both in Europe and also US and Middle East, to mention a few.
Yeah. When you talk about availability in Norway 5+, and we showed in the very start that the average harvest waste in Norway, it's going down, and do you expect it to continue going down, or do you think you see an improvement in 2024? Do you think they will come catch up? You have some possibilities there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, there is upside to 2024, and going into the first half, there is say short term there is more stock in the sea, being in terms of number of fish as well.
Yeah.
Particularly from also northern Norway.
And that's due to the rest capacity they had from the algae bloom some years ago.
Part of it.
Okay.
That's that, but also in western Norway, it's warmer earlier, and you harvest, you stock smaller sizes earlier also, so it becomes more available. But it's the challenging in utilizing the MAB that is important, because it's say the total production, but there is a big opportunity here to if you can manage to utilize your capacity in a way that you are able to have the correct product at the correct time, and having what really it goes to is growth.
Yeah.
And number of lost feeding days, for example, having minimizing that is the best strategy.
Yeah.
And how you be able to deliver all this, but it's
and then you probably can
of course
think about it. Yeah.
But it's a big market opportunity still, and will be in the food service segment. And the same as when you take the next slide, which is as a retail segment. If you look at it in terms of tons, it's EU, US, Middle East, and also other regions. You're able to all the people. It's not the problem to sell more.
No.
It's it would be a question of price point.
And what do you compare it to then? What price point? What is a price point?
So price point you could measure at what different stage in the value chain.
Yeah.
And the bottom graph here is.
I think you need to explain this one to me. Okay, Harry lost me.
It's trying to go through, say, the value chain downstream.
Okay.
And processing. You have different say dynamics. You could either have your own processing plants. You could sell to smokehouses. You can have rented processing, for example. So it's different, but this is an illustration of how the US market is roughly processing and where it ends up being net apparent consumption after value-added processing. What is being then available.
And then you end up with the biggest, which is fresh fillets in the US, right?
So in the US, it's a higher share of fresh fillets compared to Europe, where you also have smoked salmon, which we've just eaten for lunch. It's good. It's very good.
In-house made.
In-house made.
Yeah.
So where did that besides?
So what we're looking at when we be having capacity in the value chain to produce more, it's not an indication that retail also, but price to consumer then of course is the big question in consumer trends and what has been the case there. And of course 2023 with increasing rates, inflation, everything there has been pushback.
But still, and when you look at the US market, they still consume the volumes.
So salmon within the seafood categories, one sector that is doing very, very good. Same shrimp, for example, which is another sector we follow closely. Is of course how will this develop is the X factor that we don't know. Will you have a soft landing, hard recession? But what you see is that they couldn't disposable income for a few markets are down. Then you have it gives a negative effect, but overall within the seafood strategy for retail and the positioning of salmon, still good. There are room for growth, and you also see the competitiveness for salmon compared to other proteins, which if you also look at soybean futures, which is
why is that important? Why do I looking at soybeans? I am not eating that.
It's an indicator for say the feed cost for other.
Being one of the cornerstones of the feed for the different proteins as well.
For different proteins.
Salmon.
So it's compared to cost plus for other proteins. It's relevant to see, okay, where is the direction going? So soybean future both last year and this year are interesting as a parameter to view what's going on and having an easy indicator on what is the status or likelihood of big changes or movements in the retail segments that could impact also the supply dynamic and willingness to pay.
You can use it to kind of explain the cost of product.
So retail is of course there's not a problem to run and a willingness to do more campaigns and promotions. In virtually every market. There is of course the what level you need the capacity, you need the logistics, you need the supply shares, and this is things you can dig down into and what is relevant to understand the market dynamics. Also, when we come to a more long term here on understanding each market. But it's
coming up actually. But what is the long term? You are trying to put it up here for me, I think. And you do it with bubbles. So I'm 5 years old now, and but I see the yellow bubbles. Why are they so exciting?
The yellow bubbles are a difference here in say when you move more to the long term and illustrate what is the say growth challenge. It's what we mentioned, and also here there's a when you view demand compared to supply potential. There's a big difference here in what do we envisage as growth cases compared to traditional salmon farming, versus what potentially in the next 5 to 10 years can be growth production in the market. That is a factor that potentially can change the dynamic, and that's what we wanted to highlight and show here with the bubbles, which represent the size of the bubble is how big the market is. Left axis is the say consumption per capita, and the bottom y-axis is the GDP per capita. So there is a clear difference between markets and countries with higher GDP has of course higher purchasing power, disposable income, versus emerging markets. In addition, here you see that there's a difference between the developed salmon markets and those with growth potential.
Then you will put China in growth potential.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So all markets are growth potential, but there's a difference here in terms of the demand dynamics going the next 5 years. If you include that production will take place in significant amount with, for example, land-based or offshore in market compared from the producing.
You will completely change the dynamics of a market if you are booming with land-based farming in China. You will take away some of the premium from the Europeans, probably.
It will change the dynamic in terms of what and the allocation on where could it be supplied to.
Yeah.
But it's not taking place. It potentially would change the dynamic. But if the big picture is that there isn't much room, even if you include it. So you go really from a historical price neutral demand of 6 to 7% there, and what the industry is able to produce. So the conclusion is, of course, there's room for growth for all categories, and taking only the traditional coastal land-based farming, it's becoming more and more limited to be able to grow. So the outlook for the industry it's good, and it's not, and it will be represented by their continued. It won't be sufficient enough.
Yeah, there's still a lack of supply. The demand is there. The supply need to catch up. It's a bit disappointing Europe market for Norway in value when we looked at the inflation.
Yeah,
and also a bit disappointing in biomass or harvest from Norway as well. But you see improvements coming into 2024.
Yeah, there is a supply potential because you have unutilized capacity.
Yeah.
If you adjust for this and say the capacity is utilized 100%, there is the only traffic light system, say, granting of new capacity in all regions from Chile to Norway. It's very, very limited. There's some new capacity in East Canada. You have Iceland. But on a global level, it really doesn't.
Yeah. No, but I think we're going to end it there. I think we need to say thank you for the patience for all of our followers today. And let's wish and remind them that you will have a recording of the webinar sent to you afterwards. And if you want to see more from the Edge portal, please ask us. We can help you out with a trial. And then we should wish everyone a happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
And a happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.